I I think I had said before that it was interesting when we got on the plane in Houston because like tons of Nigerians got on the plane. So like if you didn't know where you were going, you knew once all those people got on the plane, like we were going to Nigeria. And it was interesting because Nigerians are so used to the climate in Nigeria that they had like suits on and sweaters and long pants and jeans and all that stuff. And I was prepared for really hot, humid weather because that's what I had researched. And so I was a little freaked out when I saw the way they were dressed. I was thinking, oh my gosh, did I read the wrong thing on the internet? And so, anyway, so we finally arrive in Nigeria and, um, we're watching the little map that's in front of our in the seat in front of us because everyone has their individual map, and we're seeing how many hours we have left, how many minutes we like down to the second. And when we arrived, it was just unbelievable. And what I remember is looking out the window and like it looked like jungle. It really wasn't, but where the airport was, it was very jungle like there was a lot of tall grass and trees and whatnot. And one thing I noticed was there was a lot of abandoned planes that were just on the side of the runway, very large, old planes. Um, and so we finally land, and I remember getting off the plane, and it just felt like, besides the fact that it was so freaking hot, like incredibly humid, it felt a little chaotic, like immediately. Like we get off the plane and there's just like all this noise and kind of like, not screaming, but just the tone of their language is just very loud. It's a very high level tone. And so there's just kind of like all this chaos. And so you get off the plane, and I remember walking down this hallway and then coming to an escalator. And it was time for us to go through customs. And I remember we got on to the escalator, and my husband was in front of me, and then there was a lady behind me. So it wasn't a long escalator. It was a very short escalator, but it was enough time for me to stop and think, I don't know how this is going to turn out. And the reason I was thinking that was because, like I said, there was a woman behind me. My husband was in front of me on this escalator. Well, there's a large group of people at the very bottom of the escalator. I mean, like right when you get to the bottom, there was a group of people there. And I remember thinking, I don't think this is going to end well. And sure enough, we come to the bottom, and this crowd is like packed into this really small foyer. And my husband just runs into the man that's closest to the very bottom of the escalator. And then I run into him. The escalator's just, pulling us down. And then the lady bumps into me, and it's like this huge crash. And I just remember I just started laughing. I just thought it was hilarious. Like, when has this ever happened in my life? When did I ever expect something like this to happen? I've never even seen anything like that before. But sure enough, like we all bump into each other, and then she bumps into me, and she's got her bags, and then she starts screaming, and then all the people in the crowd in front of us, they're like, whoa, and they're screaming, and it's just like total chaos. And so we finally like pushed through those people, and then we were separated because, my husband is a citizen of Nigeria and I am not. I'm from the US. And so we had to go through separate lines. So that was a little scary because I didn't want to be separated from him. Um, but anyway, so we go into these lines, and I remember my husband's side was just completely packed. And my side it was a long line, but it definitely wasn't as packed as the Nigerian side. And so I remember meeting this girl who was from Texas, and I could tell that, she was mixed with American. She wasn't like 100% Nigerian. And so I kind of talked with her a little bit, and you could tell that she's kind of used to the chaos, and, it's just kind of understood this is how it is. But she was really nice, and it was nice chatting with her. She was coming there to visit her family as well. Um, so we're going through the line, and I just remember seeing a lady with babies, and I remember just kind of watching all the separate counters of all the custom officers and how they were talking to people and how people were presenting their documents. And the line that I was going through, when you got up to this counter, I remember there was maybe 2 or 3 officers there, and it wasn't as professional as you would think it would be. They were just kind of like looking at your passport and looking at your papers, but there wasn't like a major intent for, looking for someone who was coming into the country that would try to harm the culture or something like that. So we go through that line, and then from that line, then you go to another counter. So then I went to this other counter, and of course they were going through our custom papers that we had filled out on the plane. And I go over to the other counter, and I'm talking to this officer, and he was really nice. And he was wondering what my profession was. And I think I had written, vocal teacher, music instructor, something like that, musician, professional singer, something like that. And so he's reading all that, and he basically is asking me to prove that I am a musician, that I'm a professional singer. And so I really didn't want to bust out and start singing. And so I happened to have this CD in my bag. I used to tour with a Christian reggae band called Christafari. And I don't know, I think I saw it in the car or something, and I thought, oh, this would be cool to give to my family. And so I just kind of stuck it in my bag. And so I ended up not taking it to my family because this officer really wanted me to prove that I was a musician. I guess he wanted to make sure that I wasn't necessarily doing music there to make money, which I wasn't there to do that. And so I was like looking through my bag, like, okay. And so I pull out the CD, and so I show him the CD, and I don't even know if I told him about it, but I don't even know if he took it. I can't remember if he took it or if I just showed it to him. Anyways, I ended up giving it to him, and I just kind of prayed over it that he would, hear the gospel if he wasn't saved through the music or something like that. So anyway, so I go through that, and that went pretty quickly. My husband was in a line for a long time, and I remember I asked the officers, is there any way that my husband could come over to the line with me, because I don't want to be separated from him? And they were like, no, we're not going to be doing that. And so, and as I'm standing in line, I hear another crowd of people ramming into each other as they're coming down the escalator. Like, it just kept happening, and nobody was like stopping it. Like, the officers weren't trying to change the crowd or the line so that they wouldn't keep crashing into each other from the escalator. Like, it just kept happening. So like every 10 or 15 minutes you'd hear this like, wah, and all this chaos going on. So anyway, that is part 3. I will be back with part 4.